Looking for a home that keeps you connected to Silicon Valley without the usual barriers to entry? The Gates in Morgan Hill by City Ventures is a walkable neighborhood near downtown restaurants, outdoor trails, and an easy commute to the Bay Area. It's a small town setting with access to major career hubs. Every home is all electric with buyer-owned solar included. With limited availability, now's the time to take a closer look. Discover your new home at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
What if your home lowered your bills, charged your car, and helped protect the planet without lifting a finger? Every City Ventures home is built with solar, smart thermostats, EV charging readiness, and Energy Star appliances all included standard. It's eco-friendly living without the compromise. Intelligent, integrated, included. Discover California's leader in sustainable new home construction at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
Welcome back to Dating Intentionally. I'm Talia. I'm sharing no-nonsense advice for navigating dating and relationships with confidence and ease, whether you've been dating for a while or you're just starting out. I believe dating can be fun, and I'm here to help you enjoy the process. Question for you. Have you ever canceled a workout, bailed on your friends, or just cleared your whole calendar for someone you've only known a few days? Or maybe you've noticed that when things get really good with someone new, they quickly become the center of your entire world and everything just kind of fades into the background. If that hits close to home, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this one. We're getting into why we lose ourselves in dating and how to stop. This is such an important topic. And today I'm talking with Chris Rackliffe. He is an anxious attachment coach who's worked with thousands of people to help them heal from patterns of trauma, abandonment, and codependency, and he helps them build the healthiest relationships of their lives. He's also the author of Needy No More, The Journey from Anxious to Secure Attachment. But we're not really talking about attachment in this episode. We're getting into his framework for codependency, the earliest signs you're starting to abandon yourself when you meet someone new, and why resentment is the clearest signal that a compromise has tipped into self-betrayal, and of course, what to do about it. Chris also shares his concept of emotional diversification and how spreading out your sources for connection is actually a protective strategy. It's not just something that's nice to have. This one is full of practical tips that you can use whether you're in the early stages of dating or in a more established relationship. And at the end, we answer a dating dilemma from a listener who's wondering whether opposite sleep schedules are a deal breaker. As always, I love hearing from you. So if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or concerns, slide into my DMs on Instagram at dating.intentionally or shoot me an email at talia@datingintentionallypod.com. You know I love your comments on Spotify as well. However you want to get in touch with me, I love it. All right, let's get into it. Welcome, Chris, to Dating Intentionally. I am so excited to have you on today. I followed you forever, and I love your work. So can you tell our listeners just a little bit about what you do, who you help, and why you're here?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. So I'm an anxious attachment style coach, and I've worked with a few thousand people across 6 continents, so every corner of the globe, to help people have the healthiest relationships they've ever had, to heal from patterns of trauma and abandonment and codependency, and learn how to date intentionally, how to embody their values and what values-based dating really looks like, and how to find someone who's aligned with them in the ways that they need. So they stop calling themselves needy and clingy and smothering and start owning the fact that they need certain characteristics in a partner and a partnership.
I love that. And I mean, it's so wonderful that you've been able to help so many people all around the world. How did you get into this?
I struggled with anxious attachment for many, many years. And I know you recently interviewed the co-author of Attached on the show.
Yes.
And Attached, I know, was influential in your journey and was incredibly influential in mine. I have a degree in psychology, and still it never clicked to me that the patterns from my childhood were impacting my adult romantic relationships. But of course, that's how a lot of this stuff tends to come out and present itself, right? So when the rubber wasn't really meeting the road in my mid 20s, when I was in New York City and going on all these dates and living this really interesting life from the outside, of course, but then crying myself to sleep at night thinking I'm broken, I need fixing, there must be something wrong with me. I found therapy, I found attached, and it was a situationship with an avoidant that really helped me understand these patterns in myself and ultimately led me to doing this work. But I know what it's like to be up at 2 a.m. stalking someone on Instagram, looking at who they follow, and if someone else has been added to their follower list, and looking at snap maps and just all of the kind of protest behaviors that people who are anxiously attached,
Yeah.
engage in. So I can approach the work from a bit of a different, like more personal place and help people feel seen, but also challenge them because I know where some of those insecure roads lead.
Yes. I mean, as you were sharing kind of what you went through, I was just thinking about how we really have to thank our avoidant people in our lives for showing us a lot. I think like dating an avoidant can teach you a lot. And I know that avoidants get a bad rap. I am one. Or I guess I am one when I'm not in a relationship. Because as you know, attachment goes both ways. Like insecurity goes both ways. So I just I think we have more appreciation for avoidant people in our life because sometimes they really can it's like they just show us what we need to work on.
Look, I think avoidants are villainized, and it's a huge
Yeah,
issue with attachment theory, right?
I
Like,
know.
I hear people who reach out to me all the time are like, I'm never going to date an avoidant again. I'm never putting
That
myself
was
through that.
me.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, really? You're just going to rule out an entire group of people because of a label that they associate with their experience? How oversimplified, how reductive that is. Like, you're missing the person. So I always tell people to look at the person and not the label. I mean, we could
I
do a
love
whole
that.
conversation on that, but
I know.
yeah,
Well,
I agree
today
with you.
I really wanna talk about codependency, interdependence, kind of how we why we lose ourselves in relationships. Because we were talking offline about how you have many thoughts on this. And I think that this is really relevant because I think a lot of my listeners really they're lovers, they're givers, they wanna give a lot, and then they end up in situations and relationships with people who just don't reciprocate, or they're kind of just barking up the wrong tree, and it's like kind of just 2 people who really like each other but can't really be there for each other in the way they need, and, it's hard. So I wanna talk about what losing yourself looks like in dating. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Absolutely. And as an anxious attachment style coach, I deal with codependency all the time because it's actually one of 6 core experiences that I identify in my book, Needy No More: The Journey from Anxious to Secure Attachment. So there's trauma, abandonment, codependency, nervous system dysregulation, addiction, and stress. And they all go into the experience of anxious attachment. Now, losing yourself in dating, that is squarely in codependency territory. In fact, in the book and throughout my work, I define codependency as the loss of self in order to build and or maintain relationships with others. It can also be described as locating your center of gravity in another person. So you start to orbit around them instead of your life orbiting around you. But this is a core component of experiencing anxious attachment. And in Needy No More, there is a quote that I reiterate all the time, which is that codependency is the vehicle, enmeshment is the engine, self abandonment is the fuel. So you don't have codependency and you don't have the loss of self without self abandonment and without trying to create this intensity in early dating situations where you're trying to rush intimacy and trying to maybe sleep with that person really early on to prove that they're not going to leave you or that they really care about you. There's like a rush to the quote unquote finish line that defines so much of this experience. But that intensity tends to create inertia, and things end just as intensely as they began, and usually just as quickly.
So true. I love this fuel engine. What was the last one?
Yeah, codependency is the vehicle,
The
enmeshment
vehicle,
is the
right.
engine,
Right.
self-abandonment is the fuel.
Well, how do you define self-abandonment? Just what does that look like? How are we doing this?
It's an abdication of your personal power. It means you're not taking care of your physical, mental, emotional well-being and or health. You're not taking responsibility for your life. You're not going to the workout class, you're not meditating, you're not journaling, you're not connecting with friends and family and colleagues and yourself and or a higher power, which I call emotional diversification. It's this idea that when you meet someone who you really like, they become the center of your world and everything else takes a backseat.
Got it. Got it. And then enmeshment, what does that look like in relationships? I know this is a big one.
Enmeshment is really trying to create this all encompassing connection. It's putting this person on a pedestal, oftentimes, which, quite frankly, that pedestal is built on your own self abandonment because in order to prop that person up, you have to push yourself down. You have to suppress your own power in order to think that this person has any power over you. They're just a human being. They're average, they make mistakes, they have their own flaws and limitations. Like they're not some god, the Greek god who has swooped down, into the ether to,
Yeah.
save you from your trauma and your life. They are a person, they are human, and they
Right.
are fallible. So
Mhm.
enmeshment is all about just trying to create this all-consuming connection. It's the intensity that I was referencing.
Right. And it's interesting because when you describe it, I think there's some version of it where it's like, that doesn't sound so bad. I want something to be all consuming. I want to be fully in love and have them love me back and feel all those emotions and the passion, right? I feel like it gets conflated with that. How is that
Absolutely.
different? How is like enmeshment, it's different than actual healthy love.
In Needy No More, the book, and throughout every aspect of my work, coaching, workshops, etc., I talk about two different kinds of love that exhibit what anxiously attached love or enmeshed codependent love feels like, and then what secure, stable, grounded, intentional love feels like. And the former is what I call wildfire love. The latter is what I call bonfire love. So there's
Oh, cute.
wildfire love and bonfire love. Now, wildfire love, just like it sounds, it's all consuming. Wildfires are dangerous. They sweep through and they completely devastate whatever is in their path. Super intense, really dangerous, really risky. Bonfire love is different. Bonfires are a reason for people to gather. They tend to be built kind of one log at a time. It's slow building. It can go for as long as you want. You get out what you put in. It's intentional. It's slower building. And for some people who are used to wildfire love, it can feel really boring and mundane, like something is missing. And I remind people all the time, that's because it is. You no longer have the intensity. You're no longer wondering where you stand with someone. And that can also be a hard part of healing these kinds of patterns, too, is like putting yourself back out there and then meeting someone who is more stable and grounded and intentional and secure, who's receptive and open and like safe. That's a very different experience for folks like us. And I say us because I've been there myself, who are on the more anxious side of things. So wildfire love, bonfire love.
I love this beautiful image of the two different kinds of love, and I really appreciate that. And just coming back to your original car analogy, it seems like okay for to have codependency, you need enmeshment where basically you're giving way too much to the other person. They're way too involved in your life. Or it's just like I like what you said about the center of gravity is like basically in the other person, which can throw off anyone. It makes anyone feel off kilter. Um, and then also self-abandonment, which is just like ignoring what you need, not tuning into yourself, not showing up for yourself. And I think that people want connection and love so badly. It's like they're willing to do this or it kind of happens without us knowing. So What is the first earliest sign that someone is self-abandoning to watch out for when they first meet someone, maybe off the apps or through a friend or wherever?
When you clear your schedule that is packed with things that are good for you and that feel good for you, like working out and like hanging out with friends, for someone that you literally just met and do not know, like in the early stages of dating, you do not know that person. That person is still a stranger, and you need to see their patterns over time to get a sense of who they really are and build like a character map of this person. But clearing your schedule is one of the earliest signs that you're slipping into codependency. Now, I am not saying to be inflexible on scheduling dates early on, but what I am saying is to not just completely throw everything out the window for someone who you just met. Someone has to earn that right in your life. Why would you cancel plans with a best friend who has shown you that their words and their actions align and who prioritizes you for someone that you just met? The investment does not compute with
Yeah.
the decision that you're making.
I want to add one thing here because I agree. I think there's a sneakier way this shows up. I was just thinking, I was working with a client yesterday and she was telling me how frustrating it was to date someone who couldn't really determine their schedule. So she was like, I'm not sure if I should keep Wednesday and Thursday open for this person. I think that's another version of this where it's not even like canceling plans, it's also not making plans because they're hoping their person will slot into their schedule and figure out what day they're free.
100%. Yes, it works either way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Canceling or just leaving your schedule open, don't do that. Please live your life. This person will respect that and love that about you.
Yeah. And my approach when I was dating was like, you snooze, you lose. I'm making plans. If you didn't plan with me early enough or if you weren't on it, that time is gone. Like, I'm not waiting to do that. And that was the way I made sure to not abandon myself. And sometimes it felt harsh. I think that's the hard part about this. Sometimes it feels harsh. It feels for the person who's used to doing this and entering relationships this way, it feels like, wow, I'm being so maybe rude or unreasonable, uncompromising. What would you say to someone who has those thoughts coming up?
Your guilt is going to be proportional to the level of self abandonment in which you have engaged.
Ooh.
So, the more that you have abdicated your personal responsibility for taking care of your mind, your body, your spirit, and your life, the more guilty you are going to feel, and the more you're going to approach things from a space of people pleasing. Please know you are not responsible for how somebody takes things, but you are responsible for showing up for yourself. You're an adult. You have to take care of yourself. Like I always tell people it's never about your unique emotional experience. It's how you relate to the emotions that come up. Guilt
Mhm.
is natural to experience when you've been trained through your life to abandon yourself. And a lot of this stuff does go back to childhood. I know it's cliche. We don't have to like rehash all of that, but it is true. Many of us had this modeled for us. We were taught to go to our rooms if we were going to cry, to be seen and not heard. And these experiences add up and accumulate in the nervous system to make you think that you can't feel the way that you feel and you have to manage everyone around you. And the nervous system component of this is huge. We also don't have to go there, but I think it's really important to name here. The relationship you have with your feelings is where you need to improve, not trying to get rid of the guilt, but relate to it differently.
Okay, so what's an example of that if I feel guilty for holding a boundary for the first time or like, "Oh, I'm just making my Saturday plans," or "I'm just not gonna answer this text that came in at 11:30 at night when I was about to go to sleep." Yeah, share.
I talk to myself all the time, and it's a form of reparenting. And I know it sounds crazy, but like I will literally self soothe by saying, like, wow, that was really hard. And that felt kind of harsh. But also, I know that this is what's best for me. So I need to hold this boundary for myself. Or in the instance of like a message coming in late, I can just remind myself, I can respond and just say, hey, I got your message, but I'm about to go to bed. I'll give you a proper response tomorrow. Things like that are really, really powerful. And I think starting small is where to do it, actually, and working your way up to the bigger stuff like standing your ground with parents or with a romantic partner, for instance.
I love that. I love starting small. And I always say on the show that dating is the training ground for relationships. You have the opportunity for in these small little micro moments with the person you're just getting to know to practice the skills that actually make you a better partner down the line.
Yes, and do it early.
Yeah, do it
The
early. Yeah.
earlier, the better, because especially if you attach quickly, like the people that I work with, and like I know a lot of people watching and listening can relate to, the sooner you do it, the better. Because we teach other people what we're willing to tolerate through our early actions in dating. So make sure that you're clear with yourself before, you're dating and as you're getting to know someone, what your expectations are. And that doesn't always have to be a conversation. It's just you show that through your actions and behavior.
Yeah, for sure. If someone realizes that they've made a romantic prospect the center of their emotional world, like they're like, "Oops, I've already done this. I've already had my center of gravity in someone else." What is the first step to like reeling it back? Is it possible to save it? Do you have to start over with someone new?
I believe, as you just said, that relationships are a training ground. They are an opportunity for us to practice this at any point. Now, depending on where you are in the process, this might be a little more challenging than others. Like, for instance, if you've already been physically intimate with someone, you're probably going to feel really attached to them. So, if you're at the stage where you haven't done that yet, I advise holding off as long as you realistically can. And the 12-date rule from Matchmaker
Matchmaker
Maria
Maria.
is a
Yep,
great
we love
one
her.
to follow. Yes, absolutely. So, with that said, to repair this, keep in mind that this is built on imbalance. You can balance back out at any time. That is not going to be without its own discomfort. And again, a lot of this does come from nervous system dynamics that have been at play, usually for decades in our lives. So it's going to feel deeply unusual and uncomfortable, but it can be done. I will say working with a professional is a really helpful way to do this and hold yourself accountable so that you can check in with some kind of regularity about this. Doing it on your own can be really, really hard because you're just going to kind of, revert to your pattern. But some of the ways that you can do it are making sure that you do things that are replenishing for your mind, your body, and your spirit. So, whatever that looks like for you, if it means going to church, go to church. If it means going to temple, go to temple. If it means having Shabbat dinner with family, then have Shabbat dinner with family. Like whatever this looks like for you, please do it. Make sure that you are committing to social engagements for yourself so you're not isolating. So much of codependency has to do with over investing in a romantic partnership or a romantic partner or prospect. So there's a concept I call emotional diversification, which is really just diversifying your sources of connection in your life. That is with yourself, with your friends, with your family, with colleagues, with hobbies and passions and goals and interests and dreams, with culture, with ideas, and then with nature and or a higher power, if applicable. So those are some categories that you can use to focus on. And I like this concept because it borrows from the world of diversification, from finance and, investing. So it is a risk mitigation strategy. You're never going to put all of your money in one stock or one sector of the market. You want to spread it out because if that sector or if that investment takes a hit, you better bet you're going to be sweating bullets. The same is true of our emotional lives, I believe. If you're overinvested in a romantic prospect and then they happen to go silent or they take longer to respond, you better bet that's going to make you feel anxious. It's a totally natural response to that kind of pullback. But if you already have plans with friends and you're already excited to binge that new show that you've been wanting to watch, or you already have your spin class booked for the morning, like you have your life to
Yeah.
live. breathe life into your social activities, please, because this is a protective mechanism for us. We're social creatures and we know
Yeah,
that.
and it's fun.
And it's fun. Yes,
Like,
exactly.
it's not just about protecting yourself. Like, not everything you're saying kind of does two things. It's like it's protecting yourself in and kind of padding your emotions in your dating life, and it's truly fun outside of dating. Even if you're not dating, you better be doing these things
And you're
to
living a
have a
full
full
life.
life. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's attractive too. So it
Right.
does something else, which it actually pulls someone in. So many of the people I work with are used to being in the role of the pursuer and the chaser and the fixer. Stepping out of that role is deeply uncomfortable, but you can attract someone to you if you're living your life. And that can be really fun. It can also be really scary. This also can sound like, oh my goodness, that sounds really expensive. Like I have to be doing all these things. It's not just about doing or like, spending all of your money. It's about ensuring that you feel fulfilled in your own life outside of dating and romance.
100%. I mean, I'm married, and lately I started volunteering in February, and that doesn't cost me anything, but I've actually made friends, new friends, all by myself, that I even hang out with outside of volunteering. I met a great group of women, also all married. So now my friend group has expanded through, again, that didn't cost me anything other than my time. So it's just an example that you don't have to spend money doing it. But yeah, it's like you can't spend all your time working and scrolling.
Well said.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break here, and then I have a lot more questions for you. Okay, stop what you're doing and listen up, because Balesa and I are giving away free spicy toys or gift cards to every single one of you. That's right. Everyone who signs up wins something. We're all winners thanks to Balesa. And if you haven't heard of Balesa, let me put you on. They're a by women for everyone company that's completely flipping the script on sexual wellness. Balesa toys are made from medical grade body safe silicone and can come in sleek travel friendly charging cases, which are way better than keeping them loose in the drawer for someone to find. Oops, guilty as charged. You've definitely seen Balesa's viral toys all over your For You page, like the rose. It blew up for a reason. This little flower-shaped suction toy is iconic. Or their famous Whisper collection, the first ever fully silent vibrators, which is amazing if you share your space and appreciate a little extra privacy and peace of mind. Shipping is next level discreet with an unmatched warranty program, 1 year no hassle replacements, plus a 10-year quality guarantee. If your dog destroys your toy, Balesa will send you a new one in exchange for a photo of your dog. We love that. Of course, I had to hook all of you up, so my friends at Balesa and I are sending out free toys or gift cards to everyone who signs up. You heard that right. Every single one of you wins something. Just click the link in the episode description or head to bbvibes.com/datingintentionally. That's bbvibes.com/datingintentionally.
What if your home lowered your bills, charged your car, and helped protect the planet without lifting a finger? Every City Ventures home is built with solar, smart thermostats, EV charging readiness, and Energy Star appliances all included standard. It's eco-friendly living without the compromise. Intelligent, integrated, included. Discover California's leader in sustainable new home construction at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
So, Chris, this question came in from a listener that I thought was really interesting, kind of back to what we were saying earlier about your center of gravity in someone, but I think this is more about validation. They write, what do I do if they validate me and become the mirror I look at myself in? How do I strengthen my identity and confidence? So this really hit home for me, because as someone who grew up with a dad who never gave her praise or any, I had to kind of earn my affection from him by being whatever he thought was a good daughter, which by the way, I'm still failing at. So, it's that really hit home for me. The person I'm with can sometimes be how I'm validating myself. How do they see me? And is that good enough? So how do you get away from that, in your opinion?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to validate for this person that it is natural to want. And you're not supposed to not want that from a romantic partner. It's just that they cannot be your end all be all. I tell people all the time that a romantic partner is not some sort of needs fulfilling ATM that you can go to and make a withdrawal from whenever
I
it's
said they're not a
convenient
need
for
meeting
you.
machine. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, love it. Definitely in line there. But look, it's natural to want. If they're giving it to you, I think that's great. They just can't be the sole source of that. Not only that, but you have to learn to appreciate yourself. And I know this is a journey and I know it's hard to do at times, but like I was mentioning earlier, I talk to myself. I will look at myself in the mirror and I'll be like, oh, I look good today. Or, like I'll build myself up all the time. Before I hopped on for this interview, I'm like, of course I'm a little nervous. This is, huge. And I love this stuff and I'm super passionate about it and I want to communicate well, right? But I'm talking to myself and I'm like speaking to my inner child, like, Chris, all you have to do is show up and be yourself. Like, your presence is powerful. It's good enough. Like, you don't have to perform. I too was a golden child and have stepped out of this idea that I have to perform or earn love and affection and belonging. It's hard, but give this to yourself, please. You don't always have to look to other people for this. Also, go to people who are safe for you in your life and spread this out. Like, go to your bestie and say, bestie, I need you to build me up right now. Like, what you got?
Yeah.
Or like colleagues, like, find fulfillment in other areas of your life. I think that's a core theme of today, really. Like,
Right.
whether that's volunteering and meeting new people and giving back, which inherently feels good and altruistic, or if it's like reading a book that you care about or just expanding your life or your skill set. Like, these are things that you can do for yourself so you're not only looking to your partner for that. But please, like, if your partner is giving this to you, that's wonderful. Make sure you're reciprocating and make sure you're spreading that out with other people too.
I love that advice. I think it really puts things into perspective. And I think it's also important to point out that if your partner is giving you absolutely nothing in terms of like any kind of affection or validation or reassurance, you're not crazy for needing that. That person just literally might not be able to do it, or they might not feel that way about you, which would suck. But that's also a sign. So we're not saying like, oh, you should never have to get this from your partner, or like get it from other people. It's just so it should be there too.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, like, look, your romantic partner is a huge part of your life. They have a huge impact on your nervous system. And if you feel and can sense, like many of the hypervigilant clients that I work with, then of course you're going to be on high alert for this. Also recognize you can ask for what you need. And if someone isn't receptive over time, then you have all of the information that you need.
Right. Right. Well, I want to shift gears here a little bit and talk about the other side of this, which is another issue for my listeners. And that is when they do have a full life and they're having a hard time balancing having someone come into that full life. And they feel like, okay, I want to give time to this person, but how much time do I give? How do I keep seeing my friends and engaging in all these things I've built for myself? So, what is your advice there? Because I think there's two camps. There's people who are scared of their independence being encroached upon, which is like the more avoidant side. And then there's people who want to give, but are scared of like, okay, but how much? And they're kind of approaching it from that practical sense.
You always want to modulate this. I talk about pacing a lot with my
Hmm.
clients. Anxious attachers, codependents, people pleasers, empaths, we want to rush to the finish line. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's all about the speed. So if anything, it's more about slowing down. But for people on the other side of this who are booked and busy and socially active and super diversified, you also have to learn to create space in your life for a romantic partner to enter. Like, if you don't have enough surface area for them, if you can't build momentum by dedicating quality time to seeing this person, like, hopefully for a couple of hours, like once a week to every 10 days, like in the early weeks, then you might not have enough availability emotionally or just like time wise in your life for dating. And that's just one person, right? Like, in the early stages, you're dating multiple people too. So if you are dating intentionally, you need to carve out time for that, whether it's like an hour a day to dedicate to swiping and being intentional about chatting and then putting the phone aside, or going to speed dating events or doing book club or whatever it is that helps you to meet new people. But you can't expect to build a relationship if you yourself aren't available,
Yeah.
literally available.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think it's like there is a balance. It's not all or nothing. It's not like you have to cancel all your plans with friends and your, you know, weekly Pilates or whatever you're doing to make room for someone. But I do think it's like you have to find the time. Also, I like to remind people that your dates don't have to be marathon dates. When I was dating, I would fit people in before dinner with a friend, for happy hour, or I'd be able to go climbing with my friends and then meet them after. It's like you kind of can fit things in if your dates are an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's not that long. Also, yeah, of course, some people are traveling long distances. Some people have kids and have to work with childcare and everything. So that adds other layers of complication. But you don't have, but my point is, you just don't have to have these like long dates.
Well said. I think that's great advice too. And I think what's so important too is to remember that you want to make yourself available. You don't want to make yourself overly available, but you have to carve out time for this. There is no other way. There was a point I was going to make here and I completely forgot what
Well,
it
I have a
was.
question. No
Yeah.
worries. I have a question. Well, what about when this is another issue I see often in my DMs and people I work with, where there's an imbalance between two people of like how full their life is essentially. Like maybe one person A is like, I don't have a huge social life. I'm more of a homebody. I like to just kind of sit at home, play video games, watch TV, read. And the other person's like, well, I'm active. I go to like 6 run clubs and I am part of all these things. And they like each other, want a date, but then the person who's at home wants to spend more time, and it's like, how do they navigate that and come to a middle ground?
I think it's ultimately about managing expectations. I think when there's that kind of imbalance in interests, or between being someone maybe more introverted versus extroverted, you can't expect your partner or dating prospect to go out with you all the time, but you can make it clear what matters to you that they join. So, for instance, if you have like, I don't know, a big presentation at work and then you're going out for happy hour and you want to celebrate with this person because you care about them and you're getting to know them, then make that clear. Like, it would mean a lot to me if we could meet up. If not that day, then maybe another time. So I think it's about managing expectations and just being clear about what matters to you and asking for more of what you want, which is what I tell
Yeah,
people all the time.
right. I've had people in the last few weeks tell me that the person they were dating broke it off with them because they expected to be with them like way more often than they were able to do, or that they wanted to do, really. I mean, I know for me, I remember when my husband said he wanted to see me like 3 times a week instead of 2, I've definitely had a moment of like, like, "Oh, no, like, I don't know if I could do that." And of course, I did it, and it was fun, I had fun, but there was that initial like, "I don't know, that sounds like a lot." If someone's like, "Well, I expect you to be with me 5 nights a week," like, where's the line of what's reasonable, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask.
Hmm. I think that depends on the two people in the relationship and what they find reasonable, quite frankly. But I don't think it's reasonable to expect to spend 4 or 5 nights a week together, especially in the early stages of dating. Like, if you just defined your relationship, like, let's say you're in the 3 to 6 month mark, right? You like each other, you've got real momentum, you're either exclusive or, again, have defined this connection. Like, look, I get it. You want to spend a lot of time together. That's a big part of early stage dating, right? And like being in a relationship, that's not a bad thing. But again, you have to communicate with one another about what is realistic for each of you. I don't think 4 to 5 nights a week is realistic, but then again, that's me. And I might be projecting here. So I think it's also important to just talk about schedules and expectations and to be real about what feels like a little too much too soon and what you can work your way up to, which is really the other side of this.
100%. And listeners, I want to hear you in the comments. Do you think 5 nights a week is reasonable or not? Let us know if you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And yeah, I think to your point, when my husband asked us to increase the frequency, we were already at least 6 months in. And he was like, I want to do midweek sleepovers. And that was it's hard for me logistically because I have a dog and I had to like schlep the dog over and everything. But we did it because he asked, and I I love him and it mattered to him, and his love language is quality time, and mine isn't really, but that's okay. Like, part
Yeah.
of it is just part of being in a secure relationship is being able to show up for your partner in ways, even if it's not like your main thing.
Consideration is a love language, 100%.
Yeah.
And in that moment, you're considering the impact that this is going to have for him. And that's such a beautiful thing. And I mean, that explains a lot of the momentum that you were able to continue building, right? Like, I get it. It can be scary. It can feel like a huge commitment. Remember, you only ever take things 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day at a time. So you can always recalibrate if you need to. But if this matters to your partner and you know it's going to go a long way for them, test it out. See how it feels. Let them know that you're a little bit apprehensive that it, this might need to be modulated or like regulated. Like, you might need to pull back a little bit from time to time. Like, maybe 3 days a week isn't a weekly routine, but maybe you can start by alternating 3 times a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. Like, remember, this is a compromise. You don't have to just acquiesce, but you can also test this out and see how you feel.
What are some signals, like physical, body, or nervous system signals, that someone might feel if the compromise has turned into self abandonment? Like, I think people struggle with that line because we all know we're supposed to compromise in relationships, but when is it too much?
Resentment. Resentment will tell you when you have entered into a space of self abandonment and codependency. So, resentment is going to feel like a bit of envy and a bit of anger. So you're going to envy the other person because they are going to seem like they have it easy, like they're not stressed, they're not anxious. That's a really clear indicator that you are in a space of codependency. Like, oh, he seems to have so much time on his hands, or oh my goodness, this person seems so chill, whereas I'm over here freaking out. If that's the case, then there's something to reflect on.
Okay. And what's like a question or kind of something they would reflect on in that moment of like, is it like, am I getting my needs met? Do I feel understood and seen in this? Like, what are some questions you could ask?
I love those two that you just threw out there. But I think a good place to start is to just ask yourself, in what ways am I abandoning myself right now? What does self-betrayal and self-abandonment look like in this moment? Or to put this more in layman's terms, like, in what ways or in what way am I not taking responsibility for my life right now? Also, in what way or ways am I not emotionally or socially diversifying at the moment? In what ways am I being overly accommodating? That's another big one that can get at the root of the people pleasing and the self abandonment there.
Yeah. I I love that those different reflections. I think the one about looking outside of the relationship is so, so important. And I think people often overlook that one. It's like, wait, am I sleeping enough? Am I eating enough? When was the last time I talked to my best friend for over, like, that wasn't just like texting each other memes, and like all those things. I know for me in my last relationship, which I felt so much resentment in that one, there was a point where I'm like, wow, my life actually is so amazing outside this relationship. And this relationship is the only thing causing me stress and anxiety. And that was probably the biggest sign that I needed to move on. Like, oh,
Well said.
that that's really simple, actually. I've put all this work into my friends, my work, my family, myself, and this one thing is to just keep me up at night. Maybe that's got to go. Like,
Yeah, yeah. And look, obviously that was something that you reflected on over a period of time. It's not like you just had
yes,
this
like 8 months.
epiphany.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
a long
So I
time.
think that's important to, differentiate for folks here is like, if the relationship is in a rough patch, That's different than, say, someone just not being aligned in the ways that you need, or not being a cheerleader, or not making you a priority.
So let's just say they do this reflection, which I hope listeners are doing it. What's the next step? Like, is it, oh, I'm abandoning myself, so I need to end this connection, or I need to speak up to the person I'm dating? Like, I know we kind of talked about this earlier, about like how to fix it, but just like what would that next step be after the reflection?
I always say that the first movement is inwards.
Mm.
So it's important to just take stock of where you're at right now. Like, are you hangry? Have you eaten today? How did you sleep last night? I loved those points that you made, because so much of this can be boiled down to basics a lot of times. And if you stabilize your routines, then you can assess where your relationships are at a lot better. So there's that. But the first movement is inwards. So you need to kind of sit with yourself and decipher, where is this coming from? Am I getting the basics down? And then, of course, you need to follow through on your routines. So look at how you're taking care of yourself. Look at how you're investing in the wider variety of connections available to you in your life. And then look at the relationship. It doesn't always have to be that you go to your partner and it has to be this big conversation. If you're feeling like there's an imbalance and like you've overinvested in this person, take an incremental, let's say 5-10%. Let's say maybe you are used to messaging this person for 3 hours a day, and instead you just message a couple of times. Like, pull back your energy a little bit and reallocate it elsewhere and see how that feels for you. I like the incremental approach because it's not so drastic, it's not so extreme, which can kind of sometimes veer into protest behavior territory, like
And it
getting
might not
back at the
stick.
person. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's where I would start.
I love these tips so much. And one thing I wanted to ask you. So let's just say we have a listener who maybe in a previous relationship, they're like, okay, wow, I really self abandoned myself. I want to make sure I don't do that again when entering a new connection. Do you think it's worth kind of being very upfront early on, like being like, I expect to see you once a week. I don't text after 10 p.m. Like kind of just like laying it out, like, this is what I need for myself. Does that conversation happen? Can that happen? When does it happen?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to feel my way into this.
Yeah, this is something I get asked a lot because it's like, "My ex did this. My ex wanted all my time. My ex, like, made me feel like I was crazy for asking for too much or whatever. So this time, I'm gonna go in differently." But it's like, how do we really do that effectively?
We're all overcompensating and approaching the situation in front of us based on what has come before. So I just want to normalize that this is natural to want to do. Okay. But the energy of that kind of exchange feels very overwhelming. It feels like a lot of pressure and a lot of constriction. Remember, in early dating and in values based and intentional dating, it's about you embodying this. So expecting a date a week, I think, is a healthy ish expectation. If that's not what's happening, then say so. Then say, hey, I've really enjoyed our connection so far. I would love to start seeing one another maybe once a week. How do you feel about that? Instead of this being like a requirement, I think it's
Mhm.
important for things to feel inclusive and collaborative. Like,
Ah,
you can't
yes.
just come out here with a rubric and a checklist. The checklist. You can't do that. You have to approach things a bit more open. And remember, it's about delivery too. Like, listen to how I'm conveying it. It is saying, like, this is what I'm interested in. This is what feels good for me. How does that feel for you? It's welcoming an opportunity for conversation. It's giving the other person a chance to say, no, I'm not quite there yet, or sure, sounds good, or anywhere in between. But it opens the door and it lets the other person walk through. But also remember, a lot of these things, they don't have to be conversations. You can ask the person out if you want to see them. You can say, hey, I'm free this Saturday. What do you have going on? Would love to see you if you're free.
Right. It doesn't have to be like, let's sit down and talk about how often we see each other and how long we're going to have dates and all these things that we just do it. I love that. I appreciate that a reminder because I say that a lot too. Like you just do it. You just do the thing that you want to happen and see how they receive that, see what their response is, what their reaction is. And then you have that information and you can move forward that way.
100%. And this is what it means to embody your values. If you're someone who values connection, as many of my clients do, or values communication, then connect, then communicate. Modulate the degree to which you do this if you are on the more anxious side of things, or you are prone to enmeshment and intensity and codependency. However, remember that it's your job to carry yourself. That's your responsibility. And embodying those values is what can help you to assess alignment
Right.
with someone.
If I'm a listener who knows I'm prone to enmeshment and codependency, do I say that? Am I like, hey, person I'm dating, I'm working on not being so enmeshed early? Just I don't know. Do you feel like there's any pros to leading with hey, this is me, what I'm dealing with right now?
I think we can drop the therapy
Yeah,
coaching speak and say it
agree.
differently, which
Okay.
is I have done the hot and heavy thing a lot in the past. I've gone really quickly. So I just want to be upfront that I am an intentional dater and I like to take my time getting to know someone before fully committing. And to me, that looks like blank. Dating once a week for the first 3-ish months. I mean, you don't have to lay out the entire calendar, but I think you can tell this person, hey, I've done this before. I've done a lot of the hot and heavy, the going really, really fast, the uh, just diving all in with someone really quickly. And I'm doing things differently now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I think I asked this because I've seen the screenshots. I've seen your text listeners, okay? I've seen them. I've seen you guys doing versions of this, and I like Chris's version a lot better than kind of sending these long paragraphs of what you've been through and what you're just I think the best thing to do is just to take the actions that align with the values you're trying to embody, like we said earlier. Then the next best thing is this kind of hey, here's my approach because I've done the hot and heavy and it doesn't work for me. You don't have to say that though. If you feel the need to though, you can. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Pacing is such a big part of early stage dating. So please know that this is actually really healthy and secure to want to discuss with someone. So don't beat yourself up for wanting to do it. And remember, it's about how you communicate it that matters, and that a lot of communication is actually nonverbal.
So true. Well, listen, Chris, we have to wrap this part up because we have a dating dilemma to get into. Are you ready?
Sock it to me.
All right. First this break, and then we'll get to it.
Looking for a home that keeps you connected to Silicon Valley without the usual barriers to entry? The Gates in Morgan Hill by City Ventures is a walkable neighborhood near downtown restaurants, outdoor trails, and an easy commute to the Bay Area. It's a small town setting with access to major career hubs. Every home is all electric with buyer-owned solar included. With limited availability, now's the time to take a closer look. Discover your new home at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
What if your home lowered your bills, charged your car, and helped protect the planet without lifting a finger? Every City Ventures home is built with solar, smart thermostats, EV charging readiness, and Energy Star appliances all included standard. It's eco-friendly living without the compromise. Intelligent, integrated, included. Discover California's leader in sustainable new home construction at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
All right, Chris, here we go. And by the way, if you're listening and you want to submit your dilemma, you can in the show notes. There's a link there for you. We do one on every episode. All right. Hi, Talia. I, 32, female, have been talking to a 25-year-old man that I met on Hinge. We've had some great conversations so far and have been texting a lot since we matched about a week ago. He has many green flags, including a great relationship with his mom and sister, and he's been in therapy most of his life. Honesty is one of his greatest values, and he meditates regularly and places a high importance on his spirituality, which is an important value of mine as well. My question is about compatibility with our schedules. He's currently in an undergraduate program that is mostly online and has mentioned that he usually goes to bed very late and sleeps in throughout the morning. I have always been an early to rise, early to bed sort of person, with exceptions for social events. Is this a deal breaker? We haven't even met in person yet, but have plans to have a date. Am I overthinking this already?
Definitely overthinking. Go on the date,
Yeah.
see how the connection feels, like see if this translates to IRL, to in person, and then go from there. This is, you can hear the anxiety of like, what if our schedules don't align and what does this mean? And you're getting ahead of things. So just take a step back. Woo, take a breather. Remind yourself you do not know this person. You have plenty of time. There is no rush. Take your time, go on the date, date other people, keep matching, keep talking with other people. And remember, you will see whether or not your schedules align based on the cadence of dates. So you'll see.
Right. I love that. Well, okay, Chris, are you an early morning person or a late night person?
Since I moved to Spain a little over 6 months ago, I am definitely more of a night owl because like dinner's at 9
That's
p.m.
the
or
culture,
later.
right?
So
I
yeah,
would
that's
not
not a
survive.
lie. That's how it is.
Well, I would not survive that at all. I, as someone who literally wants to go to bed, I would go to bed at 7:30 or 8 o'clock if it were up to me. Like my husband doesn't let me, but I would. And I love waking up naturally every day at 5:30. I don't know. It's awesome. Um, that I'm sharing this though because my husband and I have opposite schedules and it still works. Like this isn't really an issue. It just isn't. You know, you kind of based on our conversation earlier, like I love being an early morning person because I have that time to myself. I don't need to be on the same schedule as my husband. He gets to stay up late and do whatever he does till 1 a.m. and come to bed and get out of bed whenever he wants. I have coffee waiting for him. It's great. It works. So I just want to give some reassurance to anyone listening who is overthinking this of like, it can work.
Absolutely. And I think that independence that both of you are embodying is like what we're talking about at the
Yeah,
core of today's chat. Like, you need to have other relationships, other interests, other things going on outside of your dating life and your relationship romantically. And those schedules actually allow you to naturally do that without it
exactly.
being forced.
So we're saying it's a pro, okay, to the person who wrote this in. We're basically saying it's great. Um, the other thing I wanted to point out in this one, and I agree with your advice that she's overthinking it, get to the date, is she mentioned these green flags. Great relationship with mom and sister, but in therapy, honesty is one of those greatest values. I am flagging this because I don't think you should be thinking that way this early. Just because, like, someone telling you they have a great relationship with their mom and sister and the honesty is their a great value literally means nothing.
I'm so glad you said this because honestly, when I was hearing the question here, the prompt, I thought to myself, "Oh, wow, they've covered a lot of ground for being matched for a week and they haven't met in person yet, so this is all happening over text." One of the best pieces of advice when it comes to slowing down and not rushing intimacy or trying to enmesh is to stop messaging so much. Leave stuff for dates, y'all. Like, come on. Don't talk about every single thing on the app or over text before you even meet. Like, I think it's really, really important to underscore for folks to just take it slow with the texting. I always say to folks to text to coordinate, not communicate. Set the details, leave it, show up on the date, and then talk about all those things. But I agree with you about that being a lot really quickly, and you don't really know if that's true or not.
I could tell you, like, I love cats. I don't have a cat. I've never had one. And, you know, I like them, but I don't like it's like I could say whatever I want, you know, and it just it doesn't mean anything. So I would not put stock into any of that. And I kind of I've been watching Love Island and I noticed this on Love Island where people are like, I'm this, I'm that. And they're trapped in this villa for 6 weeks. They don't have the opportunity to really show much of their character. So they can say anything about themselves. And you have to just take it with a grain of salt.
People will tell you what you want to hear, but their
Yeah.
actions will show you what you need to know. Boom, bottom line.
Bottom line. So, yeah, to answer your question though fully, not a deal breaker. Get to the date, see if you vibe. Worry about the sleep schedules later if you even get to that point in your relationship.
Yeah, but there could be some promise here. Let's see how the connection goes.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not saying it's doomed. Just like take it all with a big grain of salt, and see how it goes. This is the pattern I see in dating that also I have been thinking about called future breaking. I'm calling it future breaking, where people come up with reasons why it won't work before it even starts. And I'm seeing that here as well.
I love that term, future breaking. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's like, future break. It's like the opposite.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Chris, do you have anything you want to leave our listeners with that maybe we didn't say that you want to share with them?
If you are someone who is prone to codependency and anxious attachment, please know that this is not set in stone. You do not need to fix yourself. This is oftentimes about self-acceptance and honoring who you are because of the experiences that you have been through. Do not beat yourself up. Harshness doesn't heal. You cannot shame yourself into a version of yourself that you love. Please don't try to do that. Hire someone if you need professional support. If you've tried reading all the books, listening to the podcasts, doing therapy, I am here for you. My door is always open for coaching. I would be honored to join you. I'm deeply fulfilled by this work. I've had many clients get engaged, married, leave relationships that were not working. So please find someone who you feel gets you from a mental health standpoint. Hire someone to help to bring you up to their level. But please, if you've taken yourself as far as you can go independently, get help, get support.
Yeah, and if they wanted to find you, where could they find you?
I am Rackliffe everywhere. See Rackliffe, Chris Rackliffe. It's Rackliffe with 2 Fs. So CRACKLIFFE.com, Rackliffe.com. I'm also at Rackliffe on Instagram and TikTok. And if you're specifically interested in coaching, you can set up a free 15-minute chat with me for me to get a sense of what's going on in your life and if we're a fit to work together. And you can find that at Rackliffe.com/coaching.
We'll link it all in the show notes. Thank you so much, Chris. This is awesome.
Thanks, Talia. This was fab.
So what did you think? What are your takeaways? Drop a comment on Spotify or shoot me a DM on Instagram at dating.intentionally. Something sticking with me from this episode is when Chris talked about how your guilt is proportional to the level of self-abandonment that you have been engaging in. That reframed everything for me because the guilt you feel when you hold a boundary for the first time directly relates to how long you've been overriding yourself. And that's why it feels so uncomfortable. So that kind of really clicked for me, and I love the way he explained it. And I hope that you loved this conversation as much as I did. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for trusting me. Don't forget, you're doing great. And if you know someone who tends to lose themselves the second they start dating someone new, this is the episode to share with them. And if the show has helped you, a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify goes a long way. Once again, I'm Talia. This is Dating Intentionally, and I'll catch you next time.
Looking for a home that keeps you connected to Silicon Valley without the usual barriers to entry? The Gates in Morgan Hill by City Ventures is a walkable neighborhood near downtown restaurants, outdoor trails, and an easy commute to the Bay Area. It's a small town setting with access to major career hubs. Every home is all electric with buyer-owned solar included. With limited availability, now's the time to take a closer look. Discover your new home at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
What if your home lowered your bills, charged your car, and helped protect the planet without lifting a finger? Every City Ventures home is built with solar, smart thermostats, EV charging readiness, and Energy Star appliances all included standard. It's eco-friendly living without the compromise. Intelligent, integrated, included. Discover California's leader in sustainable new home construction at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.